And before we start, I kindly ask you if, well, we're going to keep on doing illustration about this session, and afterwards we will present the drawing about the main concepts and ideas that have been presented today. And you also have a card in your seats, and in the card there is a QR code, and in that QR code we have a fact sheet about methane and relationship with the climate crisis and the plastic crisis, so you can take a look afterwards. So at this moment, I will introduce to our incredible panelists that we have here today. And first of all, I'm gonna introduce to Diana Rodriguez. Diana Rodriguez is going to talk about the organic waste management programs and its benefits. She has joined CCAP, the Center for Clean Air Policy in 2023. After more than 10 years of international experience on environmental, technical, and social aspects of solid waste management and climate change mitigation. And then afterwards, we will have Constanza. Constanza is the co-founder and CEO of Sortile. She's an industrial engineer and computer science major with an MBA from Columbia University. She spent more than 4 years researching Latin American retailers, during which time she has developed a passion for sustainable fashion and supply chains. She co-founded Sortile in August of 2021 along Agustin Amir, and is currently on a mission to divert textiles from landfills. And right now I'm going to pass the word to them too, and then we will start with our third speaker, that is Idrissa. So, Diana, the microphone is yours.
What's that mean? Hey, hello everyone, good morning. What I'm going to show you today is a summary of the results of our report that we published this year. And it has a focus on separation at source at the municipal level in Latin America and the Caribbean. And I'm going to talk about incentives and successful strategies to achieving that behavioral change so that people and generators start separating waste, organic waste specifically, at source. So I'm a part of the Center for Clean Air Policy. We are an organization, a think tank based in Washington, D.C. that has more than 30 years of experience in climate policy. We create innovative, replicable climate solutions. We strengthen capacities of governments and promote best practices across different levels of government to accelerate. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. To accelerate the transition to a net zero climate resilient future. We engage with different levels. So we, of course, work on the ground with municipal governments and local governments to design policies and actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We also work with national government at the national level to create those policy frameworks and support the creation of those policy frameworks that would promote and incentivize better solutions for organic waste management or for climate change as well, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And then we also promote regional dialogue between those actors so that best practices are shared and disseminated as well. And we support also international negotiations just by providing data to decision makers so that they can use that in those discussions that happen at the international level. So as I said, what I'm showing you here are the results of this report we launched on March of this year. What we did was we mapped successful organic waste management programs at the municipal level in Latin America and the Caribbean. Programs that have been running the shortest between 4 years, but then the longest even 2 decades running. So we try to identify programs that have been running sustainably for a period of time, and that where we could learn from their mistakes, but also from the successes that they have implemented. We had interviews with the representatives from those municipal governments, the people that implemented those programs, and then try to learn from those experiences. And you can find this at the recycleorganics.org website, which is our framework program on solid waste management or the organic fraction specifically. So in terms of economic incentives, of course, there's here a list of things that you would come to mind and that we found on the municipal level. Of course, reducing fees that already exist. If you are separating organic waste at source, then your fees come down. What's charged for organic waste management services, or even providing free services for generators that are complying with separation at source. Of course, this is a big challenge in the global south, because most of the municipalities are not currently charging fees for the organic waste management services. So reducing those fees is impossible if the fees don't exist. So that's a big challenge. But where those exist, these things have been done. But as I said, it's not that easy. Other ways of doing this is then creating sanctions or penalties for the ones that are not recovering or separating the waste they are supposed to. Or having more innovative ways of trying to incentivize that behavioral change through giving monetary value to organic waste. And I want to just briefly mention that the source of budget or of resources to create all of these programs and incentives, or economic incentives specifically, many times in the cases that we saw, is just avoiding or the costs avoided from transportation of that waste that originally was going to go to the landfill, for instance, or the operation at final disposal sites. Those cost reductions are the ones that are used to promote these programs and then implement them on the ground. So I wanted to talk about maybe something that's more innovative than just reducing fees or having penalties. And this is an example from the municipality of Santiago in Brazil. This is in the south of Brazil. And they created this organic waste social currency called Pila Verde, and this is how it works. The municipal government has an organic waste management plant, so a composting plant, and has 9 voluntary collection points across the city. So what people can do is they separate their organic waste and bring it to these separation collection points. For every 5 kilograms of organic waste that the people bring to these collection points, they receive 1 Pila Verde, which is one of these green currency or cash bills that you see there in the picture. And that's what they'll receive for bringing 5 kilograms of organic waste. Then the residents can use these bills to buy produce in organic farmers markets of the municipality. And farmers, in turn, can use those Pila Verde bills to purchase the compost that is being produced at the composting plant with the organic waste that was provided by the residents at a very reduced price compared to synthetic fertilizers, then producing crops that are promoting organic agriculture. But they can also use these Pila Verdes to purchase other things that they need for their crops, seedlings, services from the municipality at reduced costs, or other things that they need for growing their produce. Then, of course, they use the fertilizer, the compost that's produced, for their local production processes. They grow again the fruits, which are sold and consumed locally, and that completes the sustainable cycle in the city of Santiago in Brazil. So they have managed to give monetary value to organic waste, where basically I, or a person there as a citizen, can buy food using their waste. Other incentives that are not economic incentives, but are more soft incentives that have been used in some of these municipalities successfully, I wanted to show to you right now. This is an example from the municipality of Olavarría. This is in Argentina. This is a program that has been running for 7 years, very successfully, and it's kind of a voluntary program. And what they did at the early stages of the program was that they put these tags on the waste bins of the citizens. So they would have a green tag, very big one, very visible. So if you walk through the street, you will see green tags all over the street showing the houses that are separating well. So the green tags would go to the houses that are doing a good job separating organic waste. If you didn't separate the waste correctly, they would put a red tag. So the red tag wouldn't say good job, like the green tag, but it would say you need to improve your separation of organic waste. This kind of strategy works well in communities with that give strong social importance to how they are perceived by their peers. And in this case, in Olavarría, just people would come out when the truck was coming, which the truck was the one providing those tags or stickers, like, no, please don't give me the red tag. I like I'm separating. So this created this incentive, like soft incentive of please don't give me the red tag. I don't want to be seen with a big red tag on the street. I'll improve my source separation. And people started learning how to do it. And this was something that was used at early stages and for a small period of time. course, having tags in bins that contributes to waste generation. So there's other alternatives to this in more recent years, such as using just technology, frequent user cards, or virtual apps or virtual cards to award points to generators that are doing this separation correctly. So if you have on route or collection points, then you can look at the waste that they are bringing, give them their points, they accumulate points, and then they get rewards such as the ones you see here, little composters for your kitchen that look very pretty, that have the program's logos, small kitchen containers, waste bins, labels to organize your waste bins in your kitchen or in your house, or other things that are like related to sustainability. Reusable straws, reusable bags, things that people will appreciate, but also they promote the participation of the generators at the local level. Other types of incentives, more of the national level, that we saw work very well is creating environmental awards or recognitions. These are two examples, one from the island of Grenada in the Caribbean. It's called the Environmentally Friendly Schools Initiative, and one from Costa Rica, which is the Ecological Blue Flag. These are national awards that happen yearly. They don't involve like cash prizes or anything. They're just recognitions at the national level for communities, for municipalities, for private sector stakeholders that start initiatives or programs in organic waste separation. And just the recognition itself in a very highly disseminated event that is yearly, that the whole country knows who's the winner, that brings very a lot of highlight to the work and innovation that's being done on the local level. That's just incentive enough that municipalities are moving towards innovating at the local level, or schools in the case of Grenada. And they don't want to lose the award that they have. Like in the case of Grenada, they have a golden award, a silver award, and a bronze award. The schools that win the golden award want to get it again next year. So they don't want to lose that status. They're very proud of it. The same as with the blue flag. The price of the blue flag is just a flag, as it says. Like it's a blue flag that you can fly on the grounds of your main municipal square, or if you're a private company and on your building. And it's a flag that you can fly, and it's just such a pride that it brings, just winning this award. That they don't want they want to get it, but also every year in the case of the blue flag, you can add stars to it. So if you're innovating or adding something additional to this initiative that you have, then you'll get stars of different colors depending on what the sustainability or the initiatives that you're adding to your program are. And that also brings a lot of attention, not only nationally, but international donors that come, are interested in these programs, are interested in upscaling them, and that brings also funding for these small startups or initiatives to be scaled up or more disseminated, not only in the national level, but at the international level. So these are also soft incentives that have worked very well to incentivize a correct separation of waste. Maybe some key messages on recognizing participants. For long-standing programs, and we'll present the report, those benefit from innovations in rewarding participants or penalizing them as well when they inadequately separate the waste. For rewarding best practices, this is something that has better results when used sporadically. So you cannot use these incentives all the time. People are going to get bored and they need things to get changed a little bit once in a while. So you cannot keep those continuously. It helps adding new participants, but also enhances ongoing participation of people that are already committed to the program. In terms of early stages, that requires more in-person efforts. And what this means is having door-to-door awareness teams. So all of these programs we saw, all of them that were successful had door-to-door teams that would go to each house to start disseminating the information, giving printed materials, providing equipment if the program requires equipment, and composters, or bins, or additives, depending on the program. They are the persons that conduct those inspections along the route and identify, for example, putting the tags of different colors, which households are separating correctly and which ones don't. So this is part of the responsibility of the door-to-door awareness teams. And what we saw also very interestingly in municipalities is that this is something that's being outsourced by most municipalities to companies that are experts in behavioral change and communication. So this is a load that's being lifted from the municipal governments to experts that are going to do this work in a better way, more strategically, and taking that workload off of municipalities or municipal governments, which normally don't have the capacity to have people working on this additionally to everything else that they have to do. Something else that I'm going to share very quickly is that most of these programs that are very successful started with pilots, collecting preliminary information. testing incentives in different neighborhoods, in different blocks, which incentive is working best. So when I upscale my program, then which one should I use and which one I shouldn't? They did interviews with focal groups and identified misconceptions of separating organic waste, which is one of the biggest challenges to get people to separate organic waste at source. It's gonna smell, there's gonna be rats coming, there's gonna be like flies, I don't wanna do this. Understand what the misconceptions are so that your educational materials are designed when you roll up the program and upscale it, so that that information is included in your materials so that you kill those misconceptions from the beginning of the program. Then pilots also allow you to select and design methods or things that you're using. These pictures from here are from a municipality in Colombia called Cajita. And they design this specific bin. It's what they give residents to separate the waste in their kitchens. The bin has a drainage system to get the leachate out. They use a bokashi method, so they have an additive that you can put in layers so to avoid odors and conserve the humidity level that is needed to avoid also odors and other problems with the waste. So this was also designed during piloting phases in Cajita, Colombia. And then just to finish, maybe just share that economic incentives show good results for all generators, especially for commercial waste generators, and of course have a quick and direct impact on shifting behavior. But as I said, this needs to be done where those tariffs or fees exist, and that's not the rule or the norm at the municipal level in the Global South. Incentive tools should be rolled out depending on the stage of the program. Early stages require more in-person efforts, while long-standing programs benefit from innovations in rewarding or penalizing participants. Of course, actively engaging with participants to achieve behavioral change using tools in your cell phones with apps, using social media to boost that participation is key. But mostly, and the main message I wanted to leave you today with is that successful organic waste management programs already exist in small municipalities in Latin America and the Caribbean. The existing initiatives have proven to have a positive effect on changing socioeconomic behavior and can be definitely replicated across the global south. That's all I wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, yes, very short.
Thank you very much, Diana. And now the floor is for Constanza, that you will talk us about the innovation in the textile industry.
Hi everyone, I'm Constanza Gomez. I'm the co-founder and CEO of SourceMap, and I'm particularly excited to talk today because usually when I present to people, I have to do a startup pitch, which is not so fun, and today I actually get to talk about what I love, which is textile waste management. And so just to kind of level set, there's 92 million tons of textile waste that are generated every year, and less than 1% of that is recycled today. And the reality is that most of it actually ends up in the global south. This is a picture of the Atacama Desert in Chile. It's one of the largest textile dumping grounds in the world, and that's primarily because Chile imports large quantities of secondhand textiles from the US. And I'm Chilean, so I'm going to give a little bit of a regional context of what's happening in Latin America. But the reality is that Latin America has become increasingly one of the markets that the US exports secondhand textiles to, and it's grown significantly. From 2013 to today, about 50% of US exports of secondhand clothing ends up in Latin America, primarily in two markets, Guatemala and Chile. And I'm an eternal optimist, but the reality is that there's significant negative externalities of this. In 2022, the BBC exposed the large textile dumping grounds in the Atacama Desert, and the amount of waste that our country is having to deal with without the accurate infrastructure to deal with it, and waste that's not even generated there. On the flip side, secondhand goods are vital for many of these countries that are importing it. And just putting a blanket ban on them would actually create significant social and economic problems because most of these communities depend on these textiles for their everyday lives, not just for clothing themselves, but they have legitimate businesses around them. And so just creating a ban of this is not a blanket solution. It doesn't solve the problem. But what is something that needs to be done is how do we manage these textiles in a more responsible way? And so for me, this presents an opportunity. Yes, there's imports into these countries. There's a ton of positive, there's a ton of negative, so how can we deal with the negative, right? And what do those opportunities present? And so there's a couple of dynamics that we need to face. First, the quality of materials has significantly declined in the past 20 years with the rise of fast fashion. And that means that the quality of secondhand goods imported to these countries has significantly declined, and therefore the amount of waste that they find in these bales of clothing is higher. Second, there's a complete lack of infrastructure to deal with materials that cannot be reused. There's tons of infrastructure today for reuse sortation. You know, they're experts in identifying, hey, this is a sweater that can be reworn. These are shoes that can be reworn or repaired and then reworn. But sorting for recycling is completely different in the textiles industry than sorting for reuse. And lastly, there's obviously a ton of environmental impact created by the first two options, and municipalities in these countries are not prepared to deal with this. So today, like I was mentioning, sortation does happen, but happens primarily for the reuse market. So being able to identify if something can be reworn or have a second life. But in textiles, as in recycling for other industries, recycling is material specific, right? And the reality is that we don't really know what's in our textiles. I don't know how many of you actually know what you're wearing today. And the reality is that most people can't tell at a glance what that is. Some people can tell by touch, but they're the minority. And the other way to do it is by reading clothing tags. But reading clothing tags is highly inefficient. 30% of clothing, when it gets to a collection point, does not have clothing tags. It's been removed, it's been smudged, you can't read it. And last but not least, 40% of them are inaccurate. So even if you do read it, you're not sorting it accurately. And the reality is, all of today's recycling technologies, whether they're mechanical, thermomechanical, and the upcoming chemical recycling, are material specific. And they have these giant charts of all the different materials and all the different specs of what they're willing to take, what they're not willing to take, what their tolerances for different chemical additives are, for colors, for thousands of different iterations that you could possibly think of. So I'm gonna have you do some math. It's easy math. But sorting and collection today costs about $1 to $1.50 if you want to sort by material. The price in the US, if you want to sell this completely unsorted, is 45 cents a pound. That means that today it's easier and more economically sound to export unsorted than to sort by materials for recycling efforts. And that's why it's easier for you to just sort this completely, send this completely unsorted to Chile, to Guatemala, to Central America, than to do the work and sort by materials here and not export waste to a country that is not equipped to handle it. On the flip side, our recycler needs to compete with pricing on the virgin materials. Cotton and poly today are both under $1 a pound. If you think about what I mentioned in the previous slide, at $1 a pound for your feedstock, there is no way that your recycled material is going to be able to compete with virgin materials today. So post-consumer feedstock pricing makes it completely impossible for you to compete with virgin materials. In summary, today it's easier and cheaper to throw materials out than to recycle. It's cheaper to drill oil or grow cotton. And if we really want to change this, and for the circular economy to be real, these economics need to change. It can't just be about money. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about is that there is a possibility to create positive ecosystems that makes those economics make sense. Today, you have hubs like Chile and Guatemala that already manage large percentages of these
materials. They just need to be equipped with the right technology and the right markets for them to actually recycle them. There's actually infrastructure in Central America today to recycle cotton, to recycle polyester. It's just not being tapped. And so there's a huge opportunity to create the circular nearshoring of recycled textiles. And so, what does my company do? We provide the textile industry with a system that enables identification, traceability, and recycling of textiles. And the way we do this is we work with sorting and collection partners in order to provide them the technology and the end markets that they need for the recycled textiles. We give them technology not only to identify the materials, but also to track and trace every single one of them, and we actually provide them the end markets, recyclers that have vetted our technology and are willing to take materials from them because they know that with our technology, they're sorted to spec. So these are our three pillars: sorting technology, traceability, and impact reporting. We have, like I mentioned, a little machine that's able to identify the material composition of clothing. We're 95% accurate. It's completely plug and play, requires minimal training. Literally, the only thing you need is a plug, and you just place the textile on top, and in under a second, it tells you the materials. We tailor this specifically for the different end markets. And so this means that we actually set our machines depending on the markets that they're actively selling to. We then track and trace every single item, and we do this in two ways. One, every single item that goes through our machine is tracked through our system, but we additionally connect to the systems that are currently in place in collection facilities. This allows us to connect to their actual sales partners and track the volumes directly from facility all the way to the recycler. And lastly, we provide impact reporting. Today, we use the EPA's WARM model to estimate landfill diversion greenhouse gas emissions reductions, and we're able to use all of this data that we currently collect throughout the process to estimate both transportation and recycling emissions reductions. All of this focus in the fact that regulation is upcoming, and eventually all of these players will actually have to report out this data. So that is what we do. Happy to answer any questions. I actually have my machine here, so if anybody wants to play later with it, happy to play around. Yeah, happy to do that.
Thank you for the answer. And as I mentioned before, information is essential. Thank you for the microphone. As I mentioned before, information is essential. It's one of the main challenges that we have in order to reach the goals and know where we are. And here, the transformation towards digitalization is super important, especially in the Global South. And hence, I'm super delighted to introduce Idrissa. He's the coordinator of the project management unit on Synergy and the Waste Management Article 6 Executive for Synergy. His expertise spans strategic project management, climate change mitigation, carbon markets, and innovation financing. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Paula. Thank you very much for all of you. My name is Idrissa Diatta. I am from Senegal. Senegal is in West Africa. I don't know if you guys know Senegal. And we are a French country, so I'm really sorry for this terrible English. But before talking about innovation and carbon markets, because my fellow panelists were very great about actual implementing, but the crucial question and critical question will always be how to finance or how to find disruptive approach to finance all this type of project at the sustainable way, at the viable way. But please let me, before going through this question, introduce my CEO, who is here, Khalifa Abakassa, who was very keen to be with me and support, what we are doing and to really engage in the climate change. So before going through, I will let him the honor to introduce and present to SONAGED, which is the Waste Management National Company in Senegal. Khalifa Abakassa.
Thank you, Idrissa. Good morning, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen. And my name is Khalifa Babakar Sarr. I'm coming from Senegal, and I want to speak in French, if you want. Bon, je pourrais continuer à parler en anglais, mais ce que je veux dire, peut-être Idrissa va traduire. Je ne suis pas sûr que je pourrais le dire entièrement en anglais. L'autre semaine, j'étais à Abuja to participate in a conference with JICA, Japanese International Cooperation Agency, about the biological waste in Africa. Et aujourd'hui, effectivement, nous avons une société, la société générale qui gère les déchets, de gestion des déchets intégrés au Sénégal, qui s'appelle la SONAGED-SA. Son rôle, c'est d'accompagner les collectivités, the local government in Sénégal. On a en moins 553 communes au Sénégal, 14 régions et 46 départements. Mais nous avons en moins peut-être même 2 millions de tonnes de déchets par année. Et dans ces tonnes de déchets, il y a beaucoup de possibilités de lever d'énergie en matière de biogaz, en matière de compostage et en matière aussi de développement de solutions connexes sur un peu la réalisation des richesses. Et nous sommes au nouveau gouvernement. Je suis ici avec mon président de la République, son Excellence Bassirou Diomaye Faye, qui est aujourd'hui au Silicon Valley pour un peu visiter ce qui se fait ici aux États-Unis. Je ne vais pas être long, mais notre objectif, c'est quand même, avec des universités comme Columbia University et la République américaine, d'autres républiques, effectivement, ici et ailleurs, dans tous les continents du monde, qu'on puisse travailler la main dans la main pour soutenir nos projets. On a beaucoup de déficits. The lack of financial projects in Africa. On a beaucoup de manque de financement de projets parce que nos budgets ne suffisent pas. Aujourd'hui, moi, j'ai un petit budget de 30 milliards de francs CFA, je ne sais pas combien en dollars, American dollars. Et le problème, effectivement, nous devons nous soutenir à lever des fonds sur les financements verts. Donc, je vais m'arrêter là et laisser le soin à mon excellent jeune frère, my young brother, Mr. Idrissa, go to explain you all the projects in Senegal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. It's okay. Thank you very much, Khalifa Babakar Sarr. So, I mean, he's the boss, so he has to introduce the company. So, he will facilitate me the introduction of the company. So, just to summarize for those who are not French speakers, SONAGED is the national company dedicated to waste management. But SONAGED is a little bit bizarre, if I can say, because it's hybrid status. It is a government company, but a private company at the same time. So the government is 100% the shareholder at this stage. Why we have chosen this? Because we have assessed all types in Senegal, all types of how we manage the waste. And you know, the municipalities has the responsibility to handle municipal waste management, but in Senegal, it's not really working. You know, we have we don't have regular infrastructures, for instance. And the government decided to create, before experimenting a lot of type of governance system, to create what we call SONAGED, and then to get in the municipalities in it, and to have this one entry point for all type of solid waste, municipal solid waste, biomedical solid waste, industrial solid waste, hazardous solid waste, and even the waste coming from the oil and gas production. So it is a one entry point, and then after we have this government scheme where we are really integrating and involving local municipalities to go through intercommunality, and then it will make all the infrastructures viable. Going through this way, we really want to disrupt how to finance. And here is two of the examples I want to share with you. We succeeded within the Paris Agreement at Article 6 to create the very first ITMO project by the private sector and at the upfront financing. We succeeded at Sharm el-Sheikh with Carbon Growth Partners and Olcott to build a project, a compost project in Touba. Touba is the second biggest city and is a religious city in Senegal, and we will have over there a compost plant. But how we mount it is that we have a private sector involved within the Article 6.2 Article 6.2 mechanism, upfront the finance, and then getting their finance back through carbon markets, the selling of the compost, and the selling of the what we call plastic credits. I don't know if you guys are aware of the plastic credits. So we have a single compost project, but with 3 revenue streams. So they take the risk with us. We provide the land, we provide the people who will work we operate the facility. They come with the money, and we have a technical partner, which is Alcott expert, biggest, mastodonte in carbon credits, and ourselves, our core work is in the waste management. So we mount this project, and we are happy enough to really go through the Article 6 strategy, because Senegal succeeded last year to have an Article 6 domestic strategy, which will allow us to have the legal frame to go through it. And this type of approach, using the carbon markets and using the upfront finance from the private sector, is this type. It is really new for everyone, but is the type of things we can do. But what we trying to do at the nodal level is that before producing the compost, we just buy all the compost. So Senegal, for incentivizing everything related to sustainability, the Senegal government subsidized the compost at 90% versus the chemical fertilizers. So what we have done is we have estimate the production we will do in this facility, and then talk to the Ministry of Agriculture to say to them, you are subsidizing the compost for the farmers. We plan to produce this compost, so come buy us, come take all the compost we will sell to you, and then you can distribute it to the farmers who needed it. But we didn't stop that there. What we have done as well is we have created an upcoming project, a permaculture project, which is creating food belts around cities as the desertification is coming all along. And you know that the compost is a soil amendment, so it is great to recreate and reforestate. The problem with the reforestation in general is that it is really passive. The idea we have then, instead of just reforesting, it is to create food belts, which will be fruits and vegetables and so on. So it will create local communities jobs, and at the same time contributing to regreening Senegal, because we are really through this desertification. So thinking about circularity, the idea is before designing the project, thinking about a disruptive business model and linking it, because we are really human-centric and community-driven. And the Carbon Growth Partners and the Alcott were enough, we had the shared value to say what all we do is for the community and is woman-centric. That's why the revenue sharing scheme there is 15% of the revenue sharing scheme going to the community. So I won't be long, but this is what I wanted to share by example to how we can have this disruptive approach of business modeling, why all we are doing is not really business-led, but human-led, human-centric, and community-driven. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for the 3 panelists. Very incredible experiences about innovation, about how waste is also so tackled with other agendas, climate agendas, as food desertification and plastics. And now we open the floor to questions and answers. So please, if you have any question, let us know, and we will pass the microphone. No? Okay. So I would like to create here a conversation about we mentioned before some mechanisms of financing waste management systems and how we can increase profitability of waste management companies. And here I would like to ask you, of course, right now we heard about Senegal, but how do you think that this could be encouraged, and knowing that right now funds are coming or will be coming into waste management towards the plastic treaty, but also in different climate agendas. How these innovation mechanisms can also enforce job creations in different territories, especially in the global south, and how do you think the startups and innovations and companies that you are in the private sector, but also with the public municipalities, can take advantage of these new process of financing themselves into waste management systems, under your perspective and under your experience? So Diana, maybe you start and then we can copy and keep it going.
Yeah, I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think, yeah, financing is always like a big issue for local municipalities. And as I mentioned, if you don't have a fee that you're charging, your system is not going to function correctly, like on waste management. So this is something that like national and local governments need to work on. And waste is kind of invisible because you take it out of your house and it disappears. It disappears, what you think, no? But people pay in our local municipalities in the global south for other services and have been paying for years, for water access, for electricity, for your mobile phones. But people don't want to pay for waste. And the governments need to focus on this. This is a service that costs, that has very high costs because it involves transportation as well. And if you don't establish fees so that people also visualize that this is a process that has costs and that you need to take that waste and manage it in a proper way, and for that you need resources, then you will never get that level of conscience of the general population that this is a matter that costs and that has an impact on the environment if it's not managed correctly. That as a first part, I think there needs to be establishment of national government and local government fees to manage correctly organic waste, and then start incentivizing alternatives that are not only just landfilling, but separating waste, doing even home composting, not only composting at a bigger plant, but doing it yourself, or community composting. There are several alternatives on how this can look like at the municipal level. But it's also very important to look at the byproduct. If you're composting your waste, who's the uptaker of the compost? Do you have a market for it? Because if you produce compost, but then you don't have someone to buy it, then that doesn't make sense either. So there needs to be a business model, and producing compost is not always something that's going to be viable in your local community. There's other technologies. You can not only do composting, maybe if you use black soldier fly, for instance, to treat organic waste. What black soldier fly does is it produces, the larvae that it produces can be used as animal feed. So if you don't have a compost market, but maybe you have feedstock that needs, and there's a market for food for the agro industry, then that's maybe a better solution than composting. Maybe you can use black soldier fly technology, and then you can create a business model around selling that byproduct. Maybe you can do anaerobic digestion with organic waste, and then you're producing biogas that can be used for cooking, that can be used to produce electricity, to warm, to produce heat, right? So you have to be very strategic on how you set your program, what your local conditions are, and how to set a business model as well. But this has also to be supported through local fees that have to be established by governments, both at the national and at the local level.
Perfect. I don't know if you want to make this.
Sure. Obviously, my perspective is a little different just because I'm a startup in a small company. But like from a structural standpoint, I think there's a lot that you can learn from other sustainable or clean industries. For example, if you look, for example, at electric cars, there's tons of incentives and tons of policies that went into financing what today seems to be not a no-brainer, but something that people don't necessarily question. I mean, the amount of Teslas that you see in the road and the amount of manufacturers that have now embraced electric vehicles
has skyrocketed, and that is in part due to incentives and regulation that have financed a lot of the R&D that has led us to have a product that is becoming price competitive. And so leveraging some of those learnings and how those industries have been able to change, I think, for the waste management perspective, is something that can be done. And there's definitely, textiles is the area that obviously I'm more of an expert, but there is regulation, particularly in Europe, in the textile space today, that is trying to achieve similar results. And so part of that financing, I completely agree, has to come from public entities to support and encourage some of this R&D that needs to be honestly developed at an incredible speed if we want actual change to happen.
Yes, I think financing has quite big challenges, and innovation comes with big challenges. First, when you innovate, there is a very big probability that you will not be aligned with the regulatory framework. It happens in Senegal, for instance, when we design these projects and go to the government to have the authorization to make the procurements. And the institutions which allows the procurement says to us, it is out of the scope of the law, because how you mount the project we didn't think about it when we were putting the administrative framework for developing such as an authorization, because our status, our legal status as a government does not allow us to direct contract with, for instance, the manufacturer or the provider with a certain technology. The second issue is, for instance, for the waste, for instance, in Senegal, the waste does not have a legal status. So the question we are always asking to the government is, if a waste, we take a waste and we recycle it and we sell it, why it can get taxes? Because if it is this, for instance, textile, if this is this thing, when I buy it, I already pay the tax, right? So if I recycle it and sell it in the market, why I am applying the tax? It is double taxing. So this is reality. So the idea is to put a regulatory framework which will be incentive to say, every startups in this type of fields, circularity, you are exempt of taxes. So it will cut the certain cost, and then figure it out that she is right, because transportation is included, everything is included. Waste management project at its core is not viable. So it needs to be support with a ton of regulatory framework which will be incentive and the approach for a disruptive business model. So this is core critical. And for the carbon markets, when I take this example, we have a terrible problem, which is the price, the off-taking price. And we have experimented from the CDM, the mechanism, the protocol of Kyoto. And right now, what we are trying to do is to have this global south approach, where the market is solidifying by the fact that we don't need the carbon. That is the global north who need the carbon markets. So they are in the need of the carbon markets, but still, this market leadership is a seller market leadership. It's a buyer market instead of being the seller markets. So with a global south coalition, we can enforce to the global north to fix the price when the price is additional and where the price is viable for the projects.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And the last question, and a very short one, knowing that we have to enforce innovation into waste management in order to reach these objectives and all the challenges that we have, how in 1 minute would you increase the appealing of the waste system and the waste sector, especially into youngsters that get involved into innovation in waste management? In 1 minute, if you could have like the opportunity to talk with millions of young people, how would you market to get into the waste sector? Diana, Constanza, and Idrissa in a very quick way.
I can tackle it. I would say first, let's start reframing it from waste sector. It's not a waste sector, it's a resource sector, right? The amount of opportunities available from, again, my specialty is textiles, but like from reuse, upcycling, recycling, the amount of things that you can do, it's a moment to be creative and to think of possibilities that can happen. This is not waste. This is something new that you can mold and grow with.
Yeah, I think waste, we need to frame it as a problem that all of us are contributing to, but also all of us can make a change. So you don't need to have a composting plant to treat your organic waste in your municipality. You can home compost at your home and you have an impact. And these things are contagious. Like when you see your neighbor doing this strange thing in the backyard or in his apartment, people start asking, like, what are you doing? Like in municipalities where they have started like home composting programs and they start giving equipment to people that in pilots, and the others are like asking, like, what is this? Why are you getting this equipment from the municipality? How does this work? And it starts to expand. And if you work in a community level, when you're trying to strengthen also the relationships within communities, that also makes it like something that people are interested in, that the youngsters want to participate in, that is contagious. It starts being contagious. When you look at it, when you do pilots and you start doing it, you just need to start doing it. And it doesn't need to be something big. It can be something small, and it'll spread. It'll spread if you do it that way.
Thank you. I mean, for me, it is a word of opportunity. When we talk about circular economy, the first step is eco-conception. It means that we have to think like the nature. It means that if we see all around us, for the young people, this is the challenge, to rethink the way of thinking, to rethink the way of living, and to rethink the way of behaving. So we are just talking about to rethink the human approach and the human sensitive of living in an environment friendly. So when we talk about that, we are just talking about reframing the world. So I think it's quite challenging for the young people.
Thank you very much to the panelists and to the entire audience. Now we invite you to network a little bit more in this room, and also to look at the fact sheet that it's in the QR code in the postal cards that you have in your seats, and to try the sortile machine if you want to learn more about the textiles that you're wearing today. Thank you very much.